Hey Tom, welcome back to my podcast. How's it going?
Good, thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Nice to see you again.
Tom is a former British Parachute Regiment, and he runs this YouTube channel called Pathfinder. Last time I had on the show, he was about 10,000 subscribers. Now he's about 25,000 subscribers, and he's getting recognised in the street. And what are people saying to you in the street?
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I don't count myself as being anything famous or special or anything, but I guess the more you get, more subscribers you get, more people will recognise you. But yeah, I've had a few people say hello to me. Oh, have you got a YouTube channel? I think I recognise you. A few places, which is a bit weird. Yeah, but it's nice that people have. I guess I'm getting a bit more recognition for what I'm doing.
So, how is your mindset towards worst case scenarios? Mad Max scenarios changed since the whole World War III scares have happened recently.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of things that have come up, hasn't there, in the last couple of years, where things could go horribly wrong. There's lots of big wars and lots of little wars and lots of potential wars. And yeah, there's lots of things happening within this country as well that could potentially, have some bad effects. I'm not saying full on, Mad Max scenario, but yeah, there's. I think now's more than ever is the best time to be prepared. To be fair, to put it into like a nutshell, really. If you're not kind of looking to what could potentially happen and keeping yourself informed and having to think about what you're going to do about it if something was to go wrong, then you're on the back foot, aren't you?
Do you even think it's like worthwhile prepping? Because if there was like a Mad Max scenario, the only way that's going to really extend your lifespan is if you have like some kind of tribe on a, homestead kind of environment away from populations. And in the UK, that is kind of difficult.
But you'll never know what's going to happen until it happens, do you? I
Yeah.
mean, even just trying to prepare for economic crisis type things, just by making sure you've got a backup of whatever you need, making sure you've got stuff to deal with certain scenarios, that sort of thing. And maybe if you live in a city where there's things like demonstrations could happen, having things like backup plans of routes and directions to take rather than just having everything in one basket, and thinking about things like EDC and stuff like that. It's not all just about nuclear apocalypse or anything like that. But yeah, even if the very worst thing was to happen, I think a lot of people are too quick to write off. Well, if a bomb dropped, then we're all dead anyway, and it wouldn't be worth surviving. There's varying degrees of what could happen in that scenario. Right up until it could, at one end of the extreme, in the end of the world, and everything gets obliterated. The other extreme, in nuclear war scenario, one bomb gets dropped somewhere, and it could affect you in lots of ways, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the world, does it? So there's a million and one different scenarios, but each of them requires some kind of preparation and not just sitting with your thumb up your backside.
A lot of my peers in the IT space, and probably in America, to some extent Europe, have not prepped for AI and a lot of their jobs being wrecked. And so that like it's a really tough market right now. And so there's a lot of people with a lot of high expenses but are unable to afford them.
Yeah.
And this is snowballing at the moment.
Yeah. There was a strike, wasn't there? When was it? About a month or two ago, over in the States, with all the big actors and stuff, because they were saying, a lot of their jobs are now being looking to be getting threatened by that exact sort of thing. And actually, it was really weird. I was watching a video on YouTube a couple of days ago, and it was a bit of a fun video. It was like a rap video with lots of different characters on there, famous people. I mean, viewers will probably know the one I'm talking about, with had Donald Trump in there, and it had all the world leaders like Putin and people like that. And it was a bit of a jokey video of them all getting drunk and doing silly things and like holding up corner shops and things like this. But you literally could not tell the difference of whether that was real or not. And you're going to be more informed on this, but we're quite early on in the sort of AI stages of life, aren't we? It's relatively new technology. Can you imagine what it's going to be like in 5 years? And how are
No,
you
not,
going to
not
tell the
really.
truth? How are you going to tell what's the truth and what's false? This is like a massively enormous tool for propaganda. Especially with the internet being the way it is, where it's all piped into your homes and everything's accessible now, isn't it? On all sorts of media, all sorts of platforms. This is going to be one of the biggest things going. So it's going to be it can have some massive effects, I think.
Yeah. And I saw this YouTube channel that has over 1 million subscribers, and I googled Equalizer 4 movie, Denzel
Yeah.
Washington, and I watched this whole intro, and I thought it was like, this sounds like a fun movie. It's like he's fighting the triads, and they're all running to each other with samurai swords. Okay, he does have he has grey hair, and his face looks like really waxy. it was AI.
Yeah. That really pisses me off, to be honest, because I've quite often clicked on a so-called trailer for a video and not realised it was AI until I've been, like, say, 30 seconds to a minute, and then you're like,
well, there's some prepping channels now that are completely run by AI, and it's a man and woman talking, and then you listen to it for 4 minutes.
God, I've not seen that yet. But yeah, it's strange times we're living in, isn't it? Things like that. We don't know the difference between
it's just
reality.
So artificially sounding like total. I mean, it sounds plausible, and it is plausible because it probably generate the script on GPT-4, and they feed it into these voice models, and just they generate some AI image, and they're probably from some country, and they don't speak any English. They don't even speak their own language. Well, they don't speak their own language on the channel. I would respect that, fine, but like just to try and make all this English content, we don't speak the language, it really frustrates me, man.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's quite wide-reaching that, and who knows where that's going to go, but it could be a massive tool for propaganda and to influencing people, that sort of thing.
So I'm about 2 or 3 years deep into my whole everyday carry and prepping thing, and I ended up with quite a lot of gear that now I just don't carry, because it's just like I want to carry all at the same time, and then I just end up not carrying any of it because like I feel like I'm lacking in something. And
it's one of those things. It's a kind of you can go into a bit of a rabbit hole with it, can't you? With gear that you can carry. And I think after a set amount of time, you suddenly realise, well, I'm not carrying all these things, so let's just think more in depth about it, about things that I will sensibly carry every day. And no, I'm not going to be walking around with £30 on my back every day.
Yeah, I've got this coffee brand.
Yeah.
So this is stainless steel. I'm going to test this out, but I made a little survival tin. I was going to carry it today in my backpack. It weighs about, I would say, 1.5 kilograms. But then I had to take the dog to work, and like putting the dog blanket in there and his food, and then there's just like my poncho, my laptop, and I just thought I'll leave it at home. But, this is basically what it is. I don't know why I've stuck this. This is a mosquito net or midgie net, but this time of year, there's not going to be that many of them, So,
yeah, that's part of a thing, actually, is to have seasonal kit, so you're only carrying stuff that's relevant to the area, the seasons and conditions. Yeah.
I've got a bounty bar. I mean, that'll probably keep me going for 5 minutes. I've got a Petzl, one of these ones, American brand.
Yeah, very similar as well.
I've got a multi-tool.
Yeah.
I have this thing here, which is it's not quite Gorilla Tape, but it's like I made it so sort of protect the signaling mirror in here.
Oh, right, yeah.
I've got some antiseptic wipes. I've got a little bit of kindling, and then I've got a Frenzo lens, and I've got some hay fever tablets, and I've got some painkillers, strong stuff, and I've got some more boo-boo kit there. I have a chomp, British.
essential survival rations. That
I've got the old windproof lighter with I've got a little hook on it, so I can put that thing like in my jacket, like you do, like in a rope.
Yeah,
got quite a lot of Gorilla Tape type stuff there, and then I have a fire starter, ferro rod,
CM rod, yeah,
survival blanket. And then I don't have any paracord. I've just got Kevlar cord.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's bang for your weight. It's good. And I've got some hooks, fishing hooks in there. I basically poached this from Ranger, Bushcraft and Fieldcraft, and I've got a candle. And then I've got this to boil water. So that's basically better than nothing.
Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it's not bad.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's good. It's better than having about 20 things on a bit of cord around your neck.
Yeah. And then I
Cool.
can extend that with larger first aid kits if I'm doing something far distance, or I don't know. I've
Yeah.
got like a poncho as well, and I've got like a tool bag, and but it is get your as you get older, your back sometimes doesn't take as much weight as it used to. So it's like, what just take a bike and stick all this stuff in a
Yeah.
Pannier bag or something, you know?
Yeah. That's I carry a small day sack with me for EDC with a few bits and pieces in it, a little pouch with some stuff, and I say head torch and med kit and stuff like that. Yeah.
And in my jacket, I'm carrying a tourniquet. I always carry a tourniquet now, because if you only have one piece of medical equipment, then I mean, you could probably survive no problem, even without all the stuff. It's for convenience, but if you want to help someone with a big injury, then a tourniquet's going to probably make the quickest difference.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is with tourniquets is that you need to know when to put them on and how to put them on. So that knowledge is key with that bit of kit, because you can actually do more harm than good if they're not required. You know.
Yeah, I can do it. I practice it now and again. I basically, with one arm, if it was disabled, it's like the nervous cut. You should be able to put it on, and the way I wind it up is so that it can basically be thrown out, and you can cinch it down with one arm.
Yeah. When we was over in Afghanistan, we always used to carry our kit so we could put it on one-handed in case our arm had been blown off.
Yeah,
and we used to carry, what was it, 2, 4, 6 tourniquets per person.
Yeah,
so that you had one per arm and 2 per leg, so that if you were a quad amputee, then someone else, obviously you can do it at that stage, but someone else could come and save your life using your own gear. Not that I'm sure, would you actually want to survive that? There have been quad amputees, but that'd take, not sure if I'd want to survive that, I've got to say.
Yeah, is that because you have body armor on in your core, and then the blast destroys your arms and legs?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah.
I don't know what we're going to do with the soldiers in Ukraine, because it's not like the UK and America. You can get an army pension if you're injured. In Ukraine, if you're injured, it's like the state budget is not good for injuries and long-term support.
No, they're going to have. Well, they've got God knows how many thousands of injured guys over there now, and terrible situation to be in. That.
Yeah, I mean, in around 2016, I was in Kiev, and I was already hearing like the hospitals were starting to fill up with Ukrainian soldiers that are injured. But you can imagine what it's like now. I mean, it isn't really mentioned in the media, but it's the hidden cost of this lot of men that are almost like, I don't know. It's like,
yeah, poor buggers, man. I've got a friend who's over there. He's been over there since nearly the start of the war. Come over from the UK, and he's still there now. He got injured, but he was lucky not to have been too badly hurt. But touch wood, he's still doing okay. It was his birthday 2 days ago, and he had a little birthday celebration out there as much as he could.
When did he get injured? I remember you telling about that guy.
Yeah, it was a while ago. Probably about a year ago or something like that. He was on a quad bike moving between positions, and an artillery strike came in and blew him off his quad bike, and he got some fragmentation, got some at the back of his head and everything, but luckily nothing too severe. But he's still doing all right. He's been fighting since that, once he recovered.
Have you ever been under artillery strikes?
No, I haven't. No. I've been very close to when they've been coming in from, our side, going towards other targets. But no, I've not been in a conventional war other than maybe Iraq, and all their sort of artillery capability was destroyed before we got across the border.
Right. Have you ever had like what's the sort of nearest you've been to like an explosion or a bomb going off?
So in Afghanistan, we had some airstrikes that were coming in, sometimes just over 100 meters away. Some big old explosions, some big bombs coming in. And obviously, when I've done live firing training stuff, you don't quite often, if you're depending on what you're going into attack, the grenades, you just post them, so you literally just pop them the other side of a bit of cover. So you're going to be maybe 2 or 3 feet away from that explosion when it goes off. as long as you've got some hard cover between you and it. But yeah, I've been fairly close to things like that now and again.
People can't really understand what it's like to experience a shockwave.
Yeah.
And it's completely different from anything like a firework or anything like that.
Oh
It's,
yeah,
I mean, yeah. Did you ever have any tinnitus from the army? From
yeah. I've got
parachute?
it now. Yeah, I've got.
Have
Well,
you?
yeah, I've got a little bit of hearing loss in my left ear from stuff that happened in Afghanistan, and yeah, I'll get tinnitus quite a bit in my
Yeah, it's
left ear.
tough,
Yeah.
man. I mean, I've had it for 20 odd years now. The last few months it's been quite bad. But it's sort of more, it's eased off a little bit now. But there's things like you can listen to noise, like white noise and stuff like that, can drown it out. And there's research going on. I think research is progressing, but I think it's a thing that people need more support with. People need to talk about it and
Yeah,
support
it's
groups, because it's a horrible thing, man. There's a lot of people suffer in silence. I think it's good to talk about that.
yeah,
Tennis.
absolutely.
I like playing the guitar and music on a band as well, a couple of church bands. But sometimes if I'm playing for a few hours and I come home, it's like, so I have to wear earplugs when I'm playing. Be really
Yeah,
careful with it.
yeah. Yeah, I was quite careful with my ears when I was serving. So anytime we were training, I'd always, as I could, I'd always put ear defence in. But then, when you're actually fighting, when you're on an operation, unless you've got the reactive ear defenders, then yeah, you can't walk around with earplugs in all the time, because obviously it's detrimental to your health.
Yeah. Were you wearing fast helmets?
No. So we had para helmets, and then we went to Mark 7, which are just your normal sort of Kevlar helmets. We didn't wear the little bump helmets, the little fast helmets. I
Yeah.
have got one of those that I use for skydiving, but I didn't use one of those when I was out there.
So did you have what kind of ear protection did you have then if you were shooting?
Well, the first I don't know 6 operations I went on, we didn't have anything. We had nothing whatsoever. So if you come out of contact, you were going to get some sort of hearing thing, because it's loud firing weapons. But for 2010, my last operational tour, we got issued these things called PIPs, and they basically was like a little earphone thing that then connected into your radio, and it was supposed to be able to give you ear defense and use your radio, but they didn't work very well. I think there was quite early technology when it come to that sort of thing. The ear defense wasn't very good, and the radio didn't work very well. So it just wasn't very workable, to be honest. It wasn't good.
Did you think like fast helmets are worth it, even though you'll get less protection?
Personally, probably not. They look cool. I think a lot of people have got those sort of things nowadays that are they're designed for a certain purpose, for troops that will go in and out of an operation quickly. I think if you're deployed onto a long-term operation or in a long-term war, I think having that entire part of your head exposed, and only, it comes up not particularly high on your back or the front,
Yeah.
it leaves you open to a lot of potential injuries and stuff. But
Yeah.
it seems to be the cool thing now everyone wants to wear, because it's like, oh, SF use them, so it must be like, they must be great. But I think if you were talking about artillery barrages, if you were sat out, experience one of those, I think you're going to want as much cover as you possibly can, and having half your head exposed isn't ideal.
Yeah. Do you ever think there'll be like full body armor? I mean, there was that dragon skin, but people didn't like it because it compressed their spine.
God knows. I've seen various things about what they're potentially going to do in the future and all that, but it's all cost, isn't it? Until these technologies develop and the cost gets less, then who knows?
I guess that if it's invented, they'll just make more bullets that are bigger caliber, and so like all you'll have is people are a lot warmer in war. They'll have to invent
Yeah,
cooling.
that's the way it works with warfare. There's a protection or a technology comes up, and then the other side wants to defend against that or defeat it, and so on, and it just bounces back and forwards, back and forwards. It's like when tanks were invented, there wasn't really any defense, or sorry, anything you could really defeat a tank with other than maybe an artillery barrage. they come out of tank rifles, then they increased the armor on tanks, then they couldn't shoot through the armor, then they increased the caliber of the weapons, as you say, to get through that, and so on. It's just a never ending battle of technology, I guess.
It'd be good if countries at war would be able to settle things with like only drones and not have people dying in the trenches. And people say they always need troops for foreseeable future, yes, but you can imagine a time where wars are just fought completely with drones and robots.
Yeah, but then it's money, isn't it? How much is it
Yeah.
going to cost to make all those things?
Some American drone companies or whatever, they're coming out with drones and they'll say like, tested in Ukraine, it's like this crucible.
Yeah, and I mean, drones are a big thing nowadays, but they've got limited uses, aren't they? They're not robots as such yet. They can just be, they're just unmanned aerial vehicles at the moment. It's not like they can, run into a building and rescue a hostage, etc., or attack an enemy position, on the ground with 20, people using the ground or anything. They're literally just flying over you, dropping a grenade at the moment. So it's a little bit like how they started off with aerial warfare in World War One, I guess, with a pilot leaning over the side of the plane and dropping a grenade or shooting a pistol.
Mm-hmm. So is your kind of content, you still find you're getting the views, or do you think that the public interest is turning more?
Yeah, the channel that I've got is on 25,000 now, which, it's not massive, but it has, gradually increased over a couple of years that I've been doing it. I've been doing it about 4 years, something like that. And there's loads of interest. And, most of the comments I get are quite positive. There's always one idiot who wants to be a smart ass and say something nasty. But, most of the feedback's really good. And it seems to be well accepted. And it's one of those things that I think I said last time, it's not something I ever saw myself doing, but I kind of fell into it in a way, and it's picking up quite nicely. It's all right.
I guess the more uncertain times are, the better your kind of channel will do with just survival and bushcraft and prepping, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not one of these people that wants to be fear-mongering or anything like that. I'm certainly not. There's certain channels, I won't name names, but there's certain channels, that's what they do, don't they? Yeah, and there's a few others, quite a few others. There's a lot of people that want to feed off people's fear and scaremonger and then benefit from it by selling stuff or whatever, or just increase their popularity or whatever. But that's not me. I mean, the funny thing is, even if you talk about something that's even related to that kind of thing, people just immediately start giving you grief. Like I did one on that Swedish survival pamphlet about a month ago or something. And I don't, that's not normally the sort of thing I'll kind of talk about, especially because people then will see it as political. And I definitely don't want to go down the political route.
But why is it political? That's a useful thing. That's
know,
education.
It is, definitely. And that's the way I looked at it. It's interest to people in this country because it's not our country, so as in the UK. But secondly, it is a sensible document to send out to people just to at least get them thinking about their preparedness and what could potentially happen. And, contact details in there for websites and phone numbers and actions on what you do in the event of, which is all great. But there's always someone out there, people were putting comments on, oh, what's all this scaremongering bullshit? I'm like, mate, people actually asked me to make that video. A couple of people sent me messages saying, oh, what about this? Would you mind doing a video on this? This is an interesting subject. So I said, yeah, why not? But you can't please everyone all the time.
I mean, your channel is not political at all. You're just about gear and techniques, and that's just. Why don't they go hate on Canadian Preppers channel?
God knows, but that's the way it is. I'm totally aware that you put yourself on Facebook, YouTube, and you're putting yourself on the stage a little bit, and you're opening yourself up for criticism. I understand that, but then there's there's all sorts of totally unjust comments and criticism. I mean, like I've been called a water mitty and all sorts of things.
A what?
A water mitty, so a pretender. Someone that pretends. Someone that pretends they're in the military. Stolen valor and all that shit.
You're retired, though, right? Is it?
Say again.
You're retired.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is, I haven't pretended to being a
Yeah,
military. You know, I served for 25 years plus another 8 years in the reserves. So
yeah.
the problem is on Facebook, you can't just reply with a photo to say, okay, here's me in Iraq and I'm still a pretender, you know. Um, but, you know, like I say, I know you open yourself up to criticism when you put yourself on the stage. So, you know, whatever, these keyboard warriors can, you know, whatever, I'm not interested.
Stolen Valor is a more like an American term. Don't really hear that in the UK. What's the UK equivalent of Stolen Valor?
So the reason why I said that is because you weren't aware of what water mitty means. So water mitty is more of
Ah,
a British term. And the wider audience maybe listening to this, if they're from other countries, may understand what the word stolen valor means more than
yeah,
water mitty. But there is, I don't know if they've termed it the same thing, but there is a law that's come in the UK now as well, where you can actually get charged for um, pretending to be something that you're not, i.e., wearing medals, medals,
right.
especially if it's influenced, say, getting a job or something like that.
Yeah. What
I
if you
mean,
just wear a camel?
say again.
What if you just wear a camel and run around with a
Nah,
Rambo knife or something like that? You don't.
no, that's different. I mean, but the thing is, if you're claiming to have served in a certain military unit and you've said you've served in certain places, the same sort of thing in the UK is the same in the States, where it's a law now. It's called stolen valor. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
know the ins and outs of it, and I'm not sure what they call it in the UK, but it's the same sort of thing. There was the chief commissioner of Northamptonshire, where I live, was caught for it recently, and he's got sacked from his job, and he's the
No
chief.
way.
Pretty sure he's the chief police commissioner in this county.
That's
He was wearing a Falklands medal, and
right.
the guy. I think they worked out he would have been something like 12 years old during the Falklands, so he can't even do his sums. That's the thing. Can't even do his sums. What a tosser! And he tried making out as though he was wearing it in honour of his brother or something like that. I think it was, which is total bullshit. Because if you're serving, especially in a service like the police or the fire service, you know, because they're able to wear medals if they've earned them. They know that if you wear a medal on your left side, mounted with your own medals, that's not in honour of someone. That's claiming it's yours. If you wear it on the right, then that can be a relative. So he's bullshitting, but people do it.
Hmm. So, what would you have done differently in the army in terms of gear versus like what if you know what you know now?
To be honest, it's difficult because things change over the years, don't they? You know,
Yeah.
technology's moved on from when I first joined the army. Um, how many years ago? 35 years ago. Um, but I've always been a bit of a kit pest. So when I was in the military, I was quite often buying bits of kit like boots and things like that. But I didn't have as much money. You know, as a young soldier, you don't have an awful lot of money. Um, but yeah, I did. I made sure I had, you know, things like boots are really important for soldiers because, especially a parachute regiment, you do a lot of time on your feet and you're walking long distances with lots of gear on your back. So I always made sure I had good boots on my feet and things like that. But I don't think I would have changed much, to be honest. I was pretty much always interested in kit and always kind of, if I could afford it, I'd get that decent bit of kit all my life.
Why are boots better than say trainers for like long distance marching?
Well, firstly, the weight that you're carrying. So as a soldier, you could be carrying £100. You could be carrying more. So if you've got something that doesn't give you ankle support, you're going to roll your ankle. And also just they need to be sturdy enough to be able to carry that weight for distance, not just for one day, but you know, for years.
Oh, it's protecting your ankle, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
so protecting your ankle from rolling, and also protecting your feet and your lower limbs from, you know, the weather. So if you're
Yeah.
going through marshy ground or streams or just muddy ground, if you've got low footwear on, the water's gonna go straight inside. Your feet are gonna get
Yeah.
wet, and you could be
Right.
in the field for weeks on end. You know, so you
Yeah.
need to give your feet protection from the weather, and it needs to support your ankles from rolling.
Hmm.
Like I say, not just, you know, when you're carrying all that weight, you could be walking on like what we call baby's head, so lumpy ground. You could be going through completely uneven terrain as well. So to help prevent your ankles rolling, you need something to give your ankles protection.
Yeah, I hiked up Ukraine's largest mountain, Horevla,
All
and I
right.
think there's a few times where I was wearing these trekking trainers that I almost fit. My feet like rolled a little bit, and but then again, it was going up with trainers is a lot easier with fit boots, and I wasn't really that fit.
Yeah.
But maybe better boots next time.
Yeah, and for civilian use, you can get stuff that's lighter. You don't have to get big, sturdy, heavy boots or anything. But yeah, for serious use, for like carrying a bit of weight and for covering distance over uneven terrain, rough terrain, boots is the way to go. And I am quite surprised at how popular trainers are nowadays. With some of the channels on YouTube, you see a lot of younger people walking, long distances with trainers on, and each to their
Yeah.
own. I know different things work for different people, but a bit of ankle support goes a long way. You don't want to be, say, halfway through a 50-mile walk, roll your ankle, and then find that you can't actually continue if you're in the middle of nowhere on your own.
I think boots are good for probably bugging out. Maybe not good if you're being pursued and you have to move cover distance quickly, but if in a sort of Mad Max scenario, boots are going to be more valuable than
Yeah, it all
trainers.
depends on the scenario, the terrain, the weather, that sort of thing. Yeah, for definite. There's a lot of good boot manufacturers over near you, actually, Germany and all that. Companies like Lower and companies like that, Lower, Mindel, those sort of companies. I find that they make some great boots and they're super sturdy as well.
Do you think Gore-Tex is good in boots? And for
Uh,
say for 2 or 3 days hiking?
yes and no. Once Gore-Tex boots have obviously got that it's like a padding inside. So once they're wet, they're going to be wet and they won't dry out. Not moisture in the field anyway. So they'll give you that protection against the weather. But if they do completely wet out and nothing's 100% waterproof, it will eventually go if it's exposed to enough wet, or if you go through ground that it makes allows the water to get inside. You go in through bogs or go through streams. Once they're wet inside, thing is with
Yeah.
Gore-Tex, it takes a long time to dry out, a long time. So they're good for short term stuff, but for longer term, sometimes it's not the best option.
My friend did some testing with Nike in the military in the States, and he said that, all the testing they did with Gore-Tex was just that it takes so long to dry. I think if the weather's freezing and your feet don't sweat, then maybe Gore-Tex is a better solution. But that's in the UK, it's not really freezing a lot of the time. It's mostly
Yeah,
10 degrees or so,
yeah, and it will get cold overnight and stuff. But yeah, it's rare that it goes to freezing or below that. Mind you, I'm off to Scotland in a couple of weeks, so I'll find out. It'll definitely be below freezing there.
Are you wearing Gore-Tex?
Yeah, I'll have a pair of Gore-Tex boots for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. How if you should do a video on like how I kept my feet dry, and like if your feet do get dry, get wet, what do you do about it?
Well,
Gore-Tex boots.
yeah, I mean, it depends on the situation and how long you've got to go and all the rest of it. I mean, firstly, you want to be taking care of your feet, changing your socks and powdering your feet. But if your boots are totally sopping wet inside, you're not going to dry them in the field. So one thing I've done in really cold, wet conditions is take a pair of Gore-Tex socks with me, and you can wear them inside the boot. The only thing is they're not ideal for walking long distance like that. You can do a bit, but they're not ideal for that kind of thing.
Why
But
is that?
just because of the bulk of them, and also you can get they are more flexible now than they used to be. They kind of got like a sock type feel to them, but they're not 100% like like a wool sock. They've still got a little bit of rigidity in there, so they will potentially be. They're going to be a little bit less comfortable and also potentially cause you blisters.
So would you prefer wool over Gore-Tex socks?
Yeah, but what I'm saying is a Gore-Tex socks they're going to prevent your feet from getting sopping wet
Yeah,
from a
yeah,
pair of boots that are sopping wet. So
yeah,
it's a bit of a toss up, really, isn't it? Because you put a pair of clean socks on, straight into a pair of wet boots, they're going to be wet within minutes.
yeah. I like the old newspaper trick. I mean, I've known that trick since I was 4. Just crunch up those newspapers and stick it in there.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I do for overnight if you're back home. But if you're in the field for a week and your boots are wet on day one, you don't get that option.
I think sealskins are they Gore-Tex? You heard of them?
I don't think the Gore-Tex. I think they use another brand that's pretty much the same thing, but I'm not 100% sure.
I heard that since the Gore-Tex patent expired, like there's other brands that are like Trespass that are just as good, if not better, but people don't. It doesn't have the branding power.
Yeah. They rocket the price up with Gore-Tex, whatever it is.
When you're at work, what is your like EDC?
Yeah, so I've got a few different things that I do. One of them is my main job is I work at a school, and I help run a cadet force at a school, so a thing called Combined Cadet Force. So I'm in there Monday to Friday every week. And yeah, I carry a day sack with me. It's just a small 25 litre day sack with me every day. And within that, I have a med kit. I've actually got two med kits. I've got like a normal med kit, what an American would call a boo-boo kit. So things like plasters, painkillers and all that sort of thing. And then I've got a trauma kit in a separate external pouch. So within that, I've got trauma shears. I've got an Israeli bandage. I've got quick clot, a tourniquet, and a chest seal. So I've got that, and then I've got a small EDC pouch. It's actually sat right here as it goes. So I've got a small EDC pouch with a few bits and pieces in it. So that's it there.
All right.
Just things like black tape. I've got a multi-tool in there, paracord, just bits and pieces, notebook, a water collection bag, water purification tablets, just bits and pieces like that, really. And then the med kit, I've got the sort of like one for normal minor injuries and stuff. That's that there.
Mm-hmm.
So that case there, I just basically bought the case. It was empty, and then just filled it with all the stuff that I kind of filled it with there. So it opens up. It's got wings like that, and each section you can actually label it if you want. But I know what's in.
Yeah.
I know what's in each one of my pouches.
Yeah.
Opens up like that.
That's a med kit.
And it all just closes up. Then I've got things like a head torch in there, power bank with all the leads, a notebook and pen with like Write in the Rain notebook and pen, Siloom, water bottle, brew mug, bits and pieces, shemag.
Shemag, yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of tools you carry?
It's only really a Leatherman. So I've got, I can't even remember what type it is. So it's a Leatherman Wingman.
Mm-hmm. All right, yeah. Nice choice.
Yeah, so that's a nice bit of kit. And then I've got a little torch, and I've actually got a little set of nail clippers. I know that sounds like... Ooh,
yeah, I've got a set on my bag.
You know what? Out of all the stuff, this isn't just for survival, it's just for convenience, isn't it?
Yeah. It's the most used thing, eh?
That is probably, out of that pack, one of the most used things in there.
Of course, man.
Yeah, then I've got some paracord and some bank line as well. Again, that's quite well used. It always comes in a bit handy. And the obvious, the black tape.
Yeah.
Stuff.
I'm trying to remember how I packed this, man. It's like challenging.
Yeah. Got a little whistle.
I need to get a whistle. That's one of my items I'm missing.
Here's an interesting one for you. Right, so have a look at this. This is a tin opener. With a little tiny little spoon on it. So these are issued. Man. These are issued in Australian ration packs.
You get one of those.
Yeah, my dad served in the Australian Army, and I've still got his ID tags with an old one of those on it.
That is fantastic.
It's like 60 years old now. It's a bit manky.
Man, that's it. That's all you need for eating.
Yeah, and it's only a tiny spoon, but it's better than using your fingers.
Yeah. Hot rations. I mean, that's all you need. You don't need a spoon or a fork or.
And a friend of mine in Australia sent me that because they you get them over there in all the shops. Bit of super glue.
Super glue, yeah. Medical super glue or?
Yeah, I don't know. It's just super glue. And that there, so that's Modestone writing paper, which is like the old Write in the Rain, but it's actually a bit better. Yeah. Okay. It works really well, that stuff. Pen and a pencil.
I need to get a compass in here. That's one thing I'm missing. That's not. I need definitely.
Yeah, I carry a compass in a pouch in the day sack itself. Obviously, a lighter. And
bounty bite.
yeah, I've got any of those. And I've actually got, so this is another kind of tape. This is called sniper tape. That's what it's nicknamed as anyway in the UK. So it's like
All right.
green
Yeah.
green fabric tape.
Yeah.
So it's actually quite good for repairing like little tears in clothing and stuff. So
Yeah.
apparently that's what it was designed for
Yeah. I've used
uniforms.
black gorilla tape on many types of clothes and bags and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah,
Waterproofs.
yeah. And then I've just in the back of that pouch, I've got water purification tablets and some water bags and a few other little bits and pieces as well. Yeah, I did a video on my EDC a while back, and it's not really changed that much. There's a couple of little bits in there that are new, but I don't know. Maybe I'll do a video on that. I've got a very small little fold up wrap waterproof in there as well, just in case you get caught out in the rain. But yeah, there's a few other bits.
The thing is, my EDC, I'm always carrying a laptop, so that's like a weight on my back all the time. So it's like it's just an extra thing that I have to.
Yeah,
laptops, these are a decent weight, so can limits what I want to carry with me all the time, going to work back and forth and stuff.
Yeah, so I don't normally take a laptop with me, but depending on other things that I might be doing, I may have a laptop in there, but I don't carry one every day, like just because I don't actually need to for my work. That's all.
So, what are you into? Any kind of fiction?
Fiction. So I guess when I was growing up, I was big into Star Wars. When I was a little boy, I saw Star Wars at the cinema, the first one, Episode 4, when I was 5 years old when it first came out. And I absolutely loved Star Wars. And then a little bit later on, when I was a teenager, I don't know if you ever read 2000 AD. Did you ever read that?
No.
So it's Judge Dredd. That's where Judge Dredd comes from, and I was really. I love
check
that.
It out. I have this Audible thing.
Say again.
I have Audible Plus, so I could probably try and find it on there.
So yeah, Judge Dredd comes from that magazine stroke comic, and what I really liked about it was the artwork was great. It was fantastic artwork. It had different storylines within the magazine, and I've always been. Something I've never really mentioned much on any videos. I'm quite into my drawing and painting and stuff. I've done quite a bit of that over the years, and I think I just really appreciated the artwork that went into those stories, and the storylines were crazy as well. It was flipping amazing. So some of it, there was totally different stories all the way through, different characters and everything. It was really interesting.
I'm into a lot of that disaster prepping, pandemic. A lot of these stories, though, the first I'd say quarter of the books are interesting because it's relatable, but then it gets into all this too much gore and all that stuff. I don't really care about it, but just when people react to the situations, I always find those fascinating for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah.
It's just
I quite like some of the films that come out about these sort of things. Like there's a new one. There's a new 28 Years Later coming out. Have you seen that advertised?
Is there?
Yeah,
I've seen the first 28 days. That was kind of scary.
Yeah,
first time I saw that, and I've not seen 28 months.
Yeah, that was quite good too. And then, they've just put out a trailer for it. It's coming out next year, and that looks pretty savage. To be fair, I think it's like the resurgence of the virus or something by the looks from what they're portraying. It looks good anyway. It looks pretty savage.
A lot of those films, they progress too quickly, and you just you're from normality to complete everyone's dead, and apart from a small percentage. What have you got planned next on your channel?
So I've actually got a few reviews of kit that I need to get on with because I've had a few companies asking me to do reviews on kit. So I've got a few of those to do, and also because I'm off to I'm off skiing day after tomorrow, so I've got some snow weather gear, some cold weather gear that I need to check out over there. And I'm thinking about doing a snow camouflage sort of demonstration if I get a chance to get away in between skiing because it's with work in Austria. So I'm thinking about maybe doing a little video on this. I've got some snow camouflage gear from Varastelika that is pretty cool. It's just whether I'll get the chance to do it before it gets dark or not.
Yeah, you must have so much gear. Do you have like friends saying, "Can I get that latest YouTube gear that you've got?"
Yeah,
Freebie, you know.
I know, yeah. And yeah, so other than that, yeah, I've got a few things planned. I'm off to Scotland as well over the new year. So hopefully get out and do maybe some just like hiking videos, talking about outdoor skills, that sort of thing. And I'm going to hook up with Stuart from Outdoor Basics up there too. Maybe we could put together a little video, some sort of survival skills video whilst we're out there too. And there's always loads and loads of stuff that I'd like to do. It's just getting the time to do it because I'm incredibly busy.
Yeah, I need to make a video about this Mad Max prep. I did my tire with a steel rim around it. The rubber came away from basically the tires are falling apart. Like, I don't know, 15, 20 years old. I
Yeah,
wrapped it in Gorilla Tape, and a year later, it's still going. It's
flipping
like you could just like continually do that to your tire in a Mad Max scenario.
flipping black tape, mate. It fixes everything. Tell you.
I definitely do that video, man. I love stuff where you just improvise, like from the stuff around you, because like a lot of the survival stuff on YouTube, it's glamping. It's just like it's the most easy stuff to do. You just put that tent down, everything's done there for you. But I love the stuff that's like you got to improvise.
Yeah, I think also there's a bit of bluffing goes on YouTube as well, isn't there? Where people make out they're in the wilds and all this sort of stuff, and if they turn the camera around, they've probably got their car sat behind them.
Yeah. There's a YouTuber that died recently, a survival guy. Did you hear about that? Shocking,
I put a
man.
post out about it. I didn't do a video, but I put a little post out about it. It's quite a sad thing, isn't it? He was caught out in the storm, wasn't he? Yeah, not good. Only a
People
young
doing
lad,
things for views, man.
22, wasn't he?
Yeah, what is that? What? It's just,
Yeah.
I don't know what you say to something like that.
Yeah. I read somewhere that all he had in his rucksack was a sleeping bag and a toothbrush. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know whether he was in a tent and the tent got swept away and all his gear, or maybe he was trying to do some sort of minimalist camping thing. But yeah. I mean, nature's no joke, especially if I think he was in Sweden, wasn't he? If you're in somewhere like Sweden in the winter, you've got to be taking things seriously, and you've got to look at the weather, make sure you know what's coming, and if it's looking too bad, then don't go out. Get yourself into cover somewhere.
Just trying to too much competition on YouTube, and you just want to get something that's extreme to get the views. It's just a vicious circle, man.
Yeah, it's not good. It's not good, and especially if you're not particularly experienced in doing this sort of thing, you're going to make a mistake at some point, and nature don't give a damn about you. If you're out on your own in the middle of nowhere in a really bad storm, then you're putting your life at risk.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, Tom. I guess thanks very much for coming on the show. Anything you want to any advice to people that are just getting started with World War III prepping or something? That'll probably take another 50 minutes.
Yeah. All I'd say is don't be too focused on just kit. What I'd say is think about your scenarios, what I'd call actions on. So what are you going to do in the event of X, Y, or Z happening?
Really good.
And also think about your skills. Think about your personal skills. So think about, do you need to upskill yourself in things like first aid, survival training, maybe navigation, things that are relevant to where you live and your scenarios that you see potentially happening. So instead of just thinking, I need to buy loads and loads and loads of kit, you could have the best amount of kit in the world, but if you're a big fat lazy slob and you don't know how to do first aid, when shit goes down, you're done. You're not going to survive anything.
Yeah. Great advice. All right, Tom, I'll leave links to your channel on the description. Man, I really appreciate your time, and hopefully we'll get to meet in person sooner rather than later.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, nice chatting. Thanks, mate. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, mate. Cheers. Appreciate it.